I will love you
and stand by you
and stand by you
as long as we both shall live.
as long as we both shall live.
The couple looked happy as they exchanged vows and danced their first dance. Shanann's family gave toasts expressing their joy.
I just want to say I love you both. You look great together, and she's been looking her whole life for a good guy. I couldn't ask for a better one. I love you guys.
The chilling video was provided by Shanann's family for a new Netflix documentary, American Murder: The Family Next Door. Never before seen home videos also show Watts hugging and kissing his daughters at the airport and enjoying a trip to the beach with the family. The documentary uncovered personal text messages between Watts and Shanann that shed light on the deterioration of their marriage in the months leading up to Watts killing pregnant Shanann and their two daughters, Bella and Cece, in 2018. I realized this trip's what's missing in our relationship. It's only one-way emotions and feelings, Shanann wrote. The last message she sent was on the night before she was strangled at their home in Colorado. Finally on plane and about to take off, she texted Watts, "Thank God. Prayers for safe flight. Love you." New video also reveals Watts with his mistress, Nicole Kessinger.
Thank you so much for coming out here with me, Christopher. I'm having a wonderful time. You mean a lot to me.
Steve Helling is a senior writer with People magazine.
So Chris Watts is in jail, and he's going to be in prison for the rest of his life. He is in his cell 23 hours a day, and he spends all day reading his Bible. He really does feel guilty about what he did. He feels remorse. He wishes he'd done things differently, and that
It was a quiet Sunday night in Frederick, Colorado. The kind of night when the world slows down, and families drift to sleep beneath the safety of their own roofs. But inside the Watts home, peace was an illusion, and the silence was about to become eternal. At 1:48 a.m. on August 13, 2018, Shanann Watts stepped through the front door. She had just returned from a business trip in Arizona, tired, pregnant, and hopeful. In just a few hours, she planned to confront her husband, Chris, about the strange distance that had grown between them. He wasn't answering calls. His tone was cold. Something felt wrong. She didn't know it yet, but her next text would be her last. Throughout that weekend, Shanann had been messaging her friends, expressing concern that her husband was pulling away. Her once loving partner had become emotionally detached, unrecognizable. She confided in her best friend, Nicole Atkinson, that she feared Chris no longer wanted the marriage, that he might be seeing someone else. Nicole reassured her, telling her to rest and talk to him when she got home. Shanann agreed. Her final message to her friend was simple but heavy with meaning. "Chris and I need to talk. I feel like something's off." Hours later, she would be dead. As Shanann placed her phone on the bedside table and slipped beneath the sheets, she had no idea that Chris was already awake, rehearsing what he was about to do. In the stillness of that suburban bedroom, the mask he had worn for years began to crack. The man who once held his daughters close, who smiled in family photos, was gone. At 4 a.m., a faint struggle broke the silence. A thud. A gasp. Then nothing. Chris Watts had strangled Shanann, ending not only her life but the future of their unborn son, Nico. When it was over, he stared at her lifeless body, emotionless, detached. Then, methodically, he began his cover-up. He wrapped her in a sheet, went into his daughter's rooms, and carried out the rest of his unthinkable plan. By sunrise, the family home was still and cold. Shanann's phone would light up again and again that morning, unanswered texts, missed calls, desperate messages from Nicole. But the woman who had written that final, fearful text, "Chris and I need to talk," would never read another message again. Her words were the last trace of the woman she was, trusting, hopeful, unaware of the darkness sleeping beside her. And within hours, those messages would become the key to unraveling one of the most horrifying family crimes in modern history. In the eyes of the world, Chris and Shanann Watts were the definition of the American dream. A beautiful family in a quiet Colorado suburb, two little girls, Bella and Celeste, and a baby boy on the way. Their Facebook page told a story of love, laughter, and prosperity. Every post was polished, every smile perfect.
And we're gonna have a lot of fun. What are you doing? This child does not sit still ever. Look at this. Bella, say hi. Bella, say hi. And I really love the fact that careful, Cece, there's a table there. Child. Yeah, day in the life with Cece. And just feel blessed that we can do that. We can travel the world. One day Chris can travel that long with us. You wonder why I need Thrive. That kid right there. 7:15 in the morning. Cece. Thrive is a must.
High fives?
Come say hi, Nana, Papa. Mimi, Papa. Cece?
Yucky? Good job.
Want to chase me?
You want Daddy to do push-ups again?
Want to chase me?
Chase or push-ups?
Chase me.
Okay.
Okay. Say goodbye to Nana.
Say goodbye.
Say goodbye to
So I can go
everybody.
chase you.
Bye.
You're so sweet. Cece, blow kisses. You're adorable. What are you doing, Cece? Are you stuck? Do you like the snow? Let me see. Is that snow? Is it cold? It's snow. Are you putting on your toes? Oh no. On the floor. Do you want to go play in the snow?
Cold.
It is cold, baby. Shut the door.
I'm not that cold.
It is cold.
I'm cold.
I know, baby. It's cold. So rub it on the door. Oh, you're putting on your toes? It's cold.
More.
You want more?
Yes. I'm cold.
I know it's cold.
But beneath the filtered images, something darker had begun to rot. Shanann, a driven and passionate woman, worked hard to build a life for her family. She posted motivational quotes, family photos, and videos of her children. She adored her husband, she told everyone how lucky she was. But friends noticed the cracks. Chris, once affectionate and attentive, had grown quiet. Distant. Cold. He no longer replied to her texts right away. He avoided video calls. And when he did speak, his eyes seemed empty, as if he were already somewhere else. While Shanann traveled for work, Chris was home alone, or so she thought. In reality, he had begun an affair with a coworker named Nicole Kessinger. The relationship was passionate and secret, fueled by lies. Chris told Nicole that he and Shanann were separated, that their marriage was over. It was a fantasy life, one he couldn't have unless he erased the one he already had. Meanwhile, Shanann sensed the change. Her texts to friends became more anxious, more desperate. She told them she felt her husband slipping away. He's not the same, she wrote. Something's wrong. I can feel it. She tried everything, romantic gestures, conversations, emotional pleas. But Chris had already crossed a line. To the outside world, he still smiled in photos and played with his daughters in the yard. But inside, he was rehearsing a lie so big, it would soon destroy everyone around him. Every smile on social media became another layer of disguise. Every, I love you, another step toward betrayal. And while Shanann clung to hope, planning a future with their unborn son, Chris was planning something else entirely. The perfect family wasn't falling apart. It was being erased, piece by piece, by the man who promised to protect it. The morning of August 13, 2018, began like any other in the quiet streets of Frederick, Colorado. Neighbors woke to the hum of sprinklers, the soft glow of dawn, and the distant sound of a pickup truck starting, Chris Watts's work truck. But inside the Watts home, the scene was anything but ordinary. By the time the sun rose, Shanann, Bella, and Celeste were gone. That morning, Shanann's friend Nicole Atkinson grew worried. Shanann was supposed to have a doctor's appointment, her first ultrasound for baby Nico, and she never missed one. She wasn't answering calls, texts, or door knocks. Her car was still in the garage. Her shoes, purse, and phone were inside the house. Something was very wrong. Nicole called the police. Soon, officers and concerned neighbors gathered outside the Watts home, waiting for Chris to arrive. When he finally pulled up in his truck, he acted surprised, confused, almost inconvenienced. His face showed no panic, no fear, just a strange, rehearsed calm. He unlocked the door and invited officers in. The house was spotless, unnervingly so. No signs of a struggle. No sign of his wife or daughters. But detectives quickly noticed the odd details. Shanann's wedding ring sitting on the nightstand, her phone on the couch, her suitcase still by the stairs. Chris repeated the same story, that Shanann had taken the girls to a friend's house after an emotional conversation about their marriage. He looked down as he spoke, his hands folded, his voice flat. But his neighbor wasn't convinced. Security footage from across the street showed Chris's truck backed up into the garage early that morning, something he had never done before. He told officers he was loading tools for work. But investigators could already sense it, the tension, the subtle lies, the chilling detachment. By nightfall, the case had already shifted. Shanann wasn't a missing person. She was a woman whose final text, "Chris and I need to talk," now read like a warning from beyond the grave. The perfect father, the loving husband, the smiling man on social media, he was now the only person who knew where they were. And soon, the world would learn exactly what that meant. As the hours passed and hope faded, the search for Shanann and the girls intensified. The small Colorado town of Frederick buzzed with tension. News crews arrived, police canvassed the area, and neighbors whispered in disbelief. Everyone wanted to believe that the Watts family would be found safe. Everyone, except the detectives who had looked Chris Watts in the eye. Something about him didn't add up. In the first police interviews, Chris repeated his story, calm, controlled, robotic. He said he and Shanann had a difficult conversation that morning about separating. After that, she and the girls were simply gone. His voice was steady, but his eyes darted away when asked for details. The officers noticed. Behind the scenes, the Frederick Police Department and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation began dissecting every moment of his story. They pulled his phone records, checked security footage, and began a forensic search of the family home. What they found didn't match his version of events. Shanann's phone, her lifeline, had never left the house. Her car keys and purse were untouched. And Chris's phone data showed early morning movement that he couldn't explain. Even more suspicious were his text messages. In the days leading up to the disappearance, Chris had been sending affectionate, apologetic texts to Shanann, while secretly exchanging romantic messages with another woman, Nicole Kessinger, a coworker. Nicole had no idea what was happening. She believed Chris was a man trying to rebuild his life after a separation. But when news broke that his wife and daughters were missing, her stomach dropped. She came forward to the police, and what she revealed shattered his lies completely. Meanwhile, investigators asked Chris to take a polygraph test. Confident and composed, he agreed. But when the results came back, they told him what he already knew. He had failed, spectacularly. Detectives leaned in, their voices sharp and unrelenting. They told him the game was over. That he could keep lying, or he could tell the truth. And slowly, beneath the fluorescent light of the interrogation room, the mask of the perfect husband began to crack. In the stark, windowless interrogation room, the tension hung heavy. Chris Watts sat hunched over the table, his hands clasped tightly, breathing shallow. Hours of questioning had worn him down. The detectives, calm but firm, pushed for the truth he had been trying to bury since that early August morning. The polygraph examiner leaned forward and told him what no liar wants to hear. "Chris, you failed the test. Miserably." The words cracked through his composure like lightning. For the first time, his carefully constructed story began to crumble. Still, he tried to deflect. He whispered that maybe Shanann had hurt the girls, that he had lost control afterward. It was a desperate lie, one last attempt to twist the story and shift the blame. But the detectives didn't believe him. Neither did his father, Ronnie Watts, who was brought into the room moments later. Sitting across from his son, Ronnie asked quietly, "What happened?" Chris lowered his head. The silence stretched for what felt like forever. And then, in a voice barely audible, he said it, that Shanann was gone, that she was hurting the girls. His words trembled, but the detectives could tell. It wasn't grief. It was guilt. Within hours, the full truth began to unfold. Chris finally admitted to strangling Shanann in their bed after she confronted him about the affair. He told investigators he carried her body down the stairs, loading it into his work truck, with his daughters still alive in the back seat. He drove them to a remote oil site owned by his employer, Anadarko Petroleum. There, in the desolate Colorado plains, he ended the lives of his daughters, Bella and Celeste, and disposed of their small bodies inside oil tanks. Shanann's body was buried in a shallow grave nearby. When search teams arrived at the site days later, they found exactly what he had described. The facade of the loving family man, the devoted husband, was gone. All that remained was a chilling reality, a man who murdered everything he claimed to love. And the final text message Shanann ever sent, "Chris and I need to talk," now stood as the ghostly warning that no one had understood in time. When Chris Watts finally stood before the court, the world had already judged him. His confession had turned a quiet family man into a national monster overnight. Cameras crowded the courthouse, capturing every glance, every breath of a man who had murdered his pregnant wife and 2 daughters, and then tried to pretend nothing had happened. There would be no trial. No long defense. No attempt to fight the evidence. Chris Watts pleaded guilty to all charges, 5 counts of first-degree murder, unlawful termination of a pregnancy, and tampering with a body. In exchange, prosecutors agreed to remove the death penalty from consideration. As he entered the courtroom, he wore an orange jumpsuit and shackles. His face was blank, his eyes hollow. The same man who once smiled in family videos now stared straight ahead, emotionless, as the families of his victims spoke through tears. Shanann's father, Frank Razusek, looked at him with shaking hands. "You buried my daughter like she was trash," he said, voice breaking. "You took away everything. You took away my whole family." From the other side of the courtroom, Cindy Watts, Chris's mother, wept uncontrollably. Her voice trembled as she told the court, "We love you, Chris. We forgive you." But forgiveness couldn't change what he had done. The divide between the two families was permanent, carved in grief and disbelief. When it was time for the judge to speak, the room fell silent. The sentence was clear: 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus 84 additional years for the other crimes. The judge's words echoed through the courtroom like a final nail in the coffin. This is perhaps the most inhumane and vicious crime I have handled in my career. Chris showed no emotion. No tears. No apology that could ever matter. He was led away in silence, a father, a husband, now a murderer destined to spend the rest of his life behind concrete walls. The final text Shanann ever sent, "Chris and I need to talk," now reads like a ghostly echo, a fragile warning no one could answer. It was a plea from a woman trying to understand the man she loved, never realizing he had already chosen betrayal over truth. When we look at the story of Chris and Shanann Watts, it forces us to ask the hardest question. How well do we ever really know the people we love? Chris wasn't a stranger in the dark. He wasn't a monster hiding behind a mask. He was a husband, a father, the man sleeping beside her every night. Evil didn't break into that house, it was already inside. Today, the name Watts stands as a grim reminder of how appearances can lie, and how ordinary people can harbor extraordinary darkness. For those left behind, there are no answers that make sense, no justice that feels complete. Only memories, and the haunting realization that the last words Shanann ever sent were not just a message to her husband, but a warning to us all. Because sometimes, the most terrifying conversations are the ones that never happen. If this story moved you, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Dark Matters True Crime, where truth is always darker than fiction.